I usually try not to be emotional in public and definitely not on camera. But a Shabbos like this, you have to be a robot not to have feelings or to I had this chist of being by 15 Shabbosim like this. So Nafshi, and other Shabbosim I was here last year, Baruch Hashem, and now I think it's just about 15 Shabbosim. I must say, someone asked me before, how do I feel about this Shabbos? I think that the specialty about this particular Shabbos this year over here in Manchester was the vulnerability from the parents, the being open and wanting to listen, tell us. They reached out to the Rabbunim and to the therapists, the speakers, with our offene hearts and ganzen completely like, tell us what we need to do. We are here in ganzen, we want to hear, we're vulnerable, we're sharing our story. I know it takes a lot of koiches to want to come to Shabbos like this. It's not easy to come out in the public. A lot of us, our children are not so public yet what they're doing in the streets. It's a little more hidden, so why come out and everybody should see? It's one of the greatest beaches. As we daven every morning, we say, Lo lidayin is soyan. Sorry. Lo lidayin is soyan, v'lo lidayin bizoyan. We ask Hashem, He should not give us any nisyonis. How in the world can we daven for that? That we know the ganze tachlis is that Hashem brought us in this world to give us nisyonis, hardships. It started from the first Yid of Avram Avinu in Nasa, Basur, and Nisyonis. That's where it started. And it continued, Ada Yom Hazeh, constantly. This is what refines us. This is what makes us grow. This is what makes us Aschar, Noilam Habe, and Oilam Haze. It's the ganze Sache is Nisyonis. How can we daven, Lo lidayin is soyan? So one of the Surim said, Lo lidayin is soyan, v'lo lidayin bizoyan is one tefillah. Yes, Hashem, you give us Nisyoin is fine, but don't give us such a Nisoyan, the type of Nisoyan that's also a Bizoyan. That it's a Bisha, a shame, shaming me, my family, my loved ones. Don't give me a Nisoyan that everybody's going to have to see what's going on. A lot of us are going through different Nisyoinis. A lot of us going through different Schwierigkeiten, but not everybody has to know. You don't have to wash your laundry in the street. Not everybody has to know. A Nisoyan like this is very, very painful, as we all know, and we have to come out and face the world, and we understand that a lot of people could be judging. The Matasiu Solomon, he said, he once shared a story, he said that it was he had a Talmud, with this Talmud was an A1 student, Mamish, the best bucher that he's had in many, many years. Shmiras Azman, the learning, the davening, tefillah, a bucher HaMetzion. The Matziu was once by a simcha, and someone came over to him and he told him, you see that Yid? This Yid is your best bucher's father. This is the father of this boy that you always rant about. This is the boy that the father. He went over to him and said, Shemalayich, I just want to give you regards. Your son, a Talmud, a bucher, a masmid, alles. Tell me, what did you do to have such a child? Tell me the formula, tell me the ingredients, tell me the mahalach, what kind of chinuch did you do? I want to share it with other parents. Everybody wants to have a child like this. The Yid takes out a picture, a photo, a picture from his pocket, and he shows it to the Matasiui. The Matasiui looks at the picture, and he says, what are you showing me? It was a picture of a guy with a long ponytail, tattoos, with nose rings. And he says, what are you showing me? He says, Rebbe, this is my other son. They both grew up in the same home. They both grew up in the same place. The Zelbe Chai, the Zelbe Yeshiva. I don't take credit over here. I don't take blame over here. I have to do my shtadlus. I need to do my job. But really, the outcome is up to the Rebbeinu Shalom. We all know when someone asked one child, look at another child. Look at this one. Look at that one. The shenste mishpuchas. Mishamna from Klal Yisrael in Manchester, Bechlal, it's a herrliche Stut, I must say, I'm not moving here so fast. But it's a beautiful Stut, it's a temimisdige Stut, Ehrlich Yidden, Be'emes. As Anna the Heuven in Mishpoches, I remember last year I went to speak to a few different moisters. I saw the Malamdim, such temimisdige, shiny Yidden. And the Mishpoches do. And from the schönste Mishpoches, we all have different nisyonis, and now we have a shared nisyon. So it's evident that it's nothing to do with the outcome. We have to do our shtadlis. Vashantovok is ook medaftin, medaf nicht oftin. You gotta do. You don't have to count accomplishing the poil yotzes after Hashem. We just have to do our shtadlis. So this brings us to talk about a little bit about unconditional parenting, of what is the mahalach of unconditional parenting. What do we do over here? What's our goal? What's our mission for this group, for our group that's here now, and for the future to save Noch Yidden? What is the idea behind unconditional parenting? It's in the word, it's in the name. But what does it mean? We all know that a person would go jump into fire to save their child. We've seen it so many times throughout history. Nebuch, when Eden went through pogroms, mothers jumped into fires and fathers to save their child. What would we not do to save our kid, to save our child? I remember when I was a teenager, in yeshiva, there was the bus bombs in those years, 1995, those years there was bus bombs in Yerushalayim, unfortunately, for a few months. And I remember there was a story, there was a mother, she knew her baby's inside, she jumped in and she never died together. We'll do everything in the world. So what happens to all of us, including myself guilty in the beginning when I started with my son? What happens to us when we have a child that gives us an assign, which is a bizayon, that we forget how much we love them? By the previous Keshanaf Shabbos, someone asked me, how could I love my child more? I said, you cannot love your child more than you love them. Can you? I had a boy, in Monsey I have a chabira, it was called Adlai Shurim, so these Bucherim, I'm working with them for many, many years. There was a boy, a Bucherl from a Chassidische, ultra Chassidische home, and he went in his own way, and he started wearing jeans and chvaisers, and his father kicked him out of the house. He didn't know about unconditional parenting, he didn't know about Keshanafshi, and he was this boy came to me, he was crying, Mama Shatam was so vaigetin. Where's my father, what's going to be? This Bucher worked in construction, building houses. One day, a few months later, I was in Makarov, he used to come to us, Shabbosim, on Thursday nights, I used to make a chabira for the boys in my shul, and we made... So one day I get a phone call, there was a große imklik, something terrible happened. This boy was working in a construction site, and he was cutting wood with a chainsaw, and he cut off his hand. 99% was hanging on a piece of skin. Shem Yirachem. Helicopter came, he was medevaced, taken to the hospital. Surgeries and surgeries and surgeries. A few weeks later, he calls me up and said, Reb Shloime, ich will nach Ribekim, I want to come, I want to come to you. I said, sure, was machst, I'm happy to hear you're alive. He walks into our house with a body cast, like from all the way, covered in white, like holding his hand. And I hug him and I shmiss with him. And I tell him, how you feeling? He says, I just came to tell you one thing. I need to go back home. I need to be in bed most of the day. I went through 7 surgeries. I woke up after 3 or 4. I woke up in the hospital. I found myself. My father was standing near me in the hospital 24/7, making phone calls, getting me private doctors to do private surgeries. I couldn't believe that my father was so moist and nefesh from me. He didn't go home to sleep. He was there with me for weeks. It paid for me to cut off my hand to know how much my father loves me. I'm shivering when I'm saying it. I remember it, like in my face. This is something that's not to take lightly. We will do everything for our kid. So what's geschehen? What happened that we even doubt of expelling them from the house or trying to... What's happening? What happened to us? This is our signature. This is our DNA. This is something that we preach it, we live it. It's in us. What happened? I think that deep, deep, deep down, because we're not educated yet how to deal with them, we believe by being strict with them and telling them what to do and telling them, I'm not buying you this if you're doing that, I'm going to throw you out of the house, you're not going to be part of it, this is going to bring them back. It comes from a Rachmunus place, but from a very twisted Rachmunus place, from an uneducated place. But imagine if a son or a daughter could walk around and feel that just because I dress differently or I'm not keeping Shabbos or whatever, tznius and all these nisyonis that they're going through, the hardships, they could even doubt for 1 second that maybe my father, my mother does not love me. And because they have that misconception, we are here to train ourselves, all of us, how to remind them how much we love them. We do not have to work on loving our kids anymore. We have it. It's in us. We love our kids. I remember I told my daughter the first time she walked out with a miniskirt, I went shopping with her in the big famous stores, and a lot of people know me. And I'm a mechanech, and I'm a dos, and that, and here I'm walking around with my daughter like officially the first time in the street. You know, the bisha? Most of you know how that feels. You could, unbearable. Unbearable, the tzar. I didn't say a word. I was telling myself, Shloime, practice what you preach. I was preaching many years before I had my own assignment. I had experience, I was working with this. I worked in yeshiva, and now I have my own school. I came into the car, she says, Tati, right, you were very, very embarrassed. You're so embarrassed with me. I told her, I said, I grabbed her like my shoulder. I said, there's nothing in the world that you could do that would take away my love for you. There's nothing in the world you could do. You could embarrass me. You could walk around with yellow hair, with orange shoes. You could burn down my house. I could be in pain. I could be hurt. My love for you is not possible b'metzias to cut off. Mekanisht. I worked with a boy 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when Zadie was young. I worked in a shop. I remember my first job, and there was a buchel over there that worked with me. He came from a very Hasidic shtib, a very Hasidic Karliner shtib. His father's a Maggid Shir, and he was as we called him, a kid in pain. So I was talking to him, and at that time he was already more, he came to daven a little bit, whatever, he still dressed very, very different than his family, but so Shmuziga said, what turned you back? What was the moment? What was that made you start? He takes out his driver's license and he shows me a picture of how he looked like just 2 years ago with huge hair. Like, in those years was like the style, like in the 70s. Huge hair. And no yarmulke, no couple. He says, this was me 2 years ago. I said, what did it? This bocher told me he has a Zayde that lives in New Square. In Square Shtetl. One of the gusheste Yidden in New Square. This is ultra Hasidic as you could get, if any one of you ever been there. And a Zayde calls him up and he says, Matayr Einikel, come to me for Shabbos. Where are you being for Shabbos? Come to me for Shabbos. I said, you sure? I don't keep Shabbos. I said, I know, but I won't keep me for Shabbos. He drives down, this boy tells me, he drives down to New Square. He comes in there with a red convertible car without a roof. And the muffler is making that noises. And the loudest goyish music is a hoich. And he parks in front of his Zayde's house. And his Zayde comes out and hugs the Kimaran. So it comes to Shabbos, to this man, and the Zayde goes to daven in shul, and he says, how about you come with me to shul? I said, I should come with you to shul. I don't daven. I don't need to daven. Just come with me. You ever see such a big shul? It's a große besmedish. Thousands of people. It's matzav. Come. He says, I went with my Zayde, with torn jeans, with my big hair, and I come into the shul. My Zayde is on the gusheste Yidden in Square Shtetl. And he says, my Zayde holds me around like this and goes over to everybody. This is my Einikel, give him Shalom Aleichem. This is my grandchild, give him Shalom Aleichem. I think that's what he was doing. This young man tells me, you think I don't know what bishas my Zayde had? My Zayde is a tzaddik, is a person that the ketraisim and the shil, the toirelich on the press from my Zayde. I know very well that Zayde. I happen to know him. I had a dentist that I was when I was 13 years old, that I had a root canal, so I was by him for a few weeks. He was a halve Yid, and I slept in Tunis to stay by the Yid. This Yid would make him like a tzaddik. He told me that Sunday, he switched. Something happened to him. He knew the bishas that his grandfather gemacht mit, and he saw that his Zayde gave away his whole image, his whole kuvit, his whole prestige, everything from me because he wanted to be me Makarev. And that's when I started changing my life. That's when I realized that I am so lovable and so admired and so important, and therefore I'm able to zan. Our children don't think for 1 second that we don't have bishas when we're nice to them. Don't worry, you don't need to tell them. They know it. I have a school for these girls, Baruch Hashem, of Zeiche. 9-10 months ago, I keep on saying 9 months, I don't know where we're up to already. And my daughter, Baruch Hashem, she was going through her own journey, and we didn't have a school for a long massive when it's a school and the school closed down. The Monsey. So kids, I didn't have a choice. I decided I'm opening up a school for her, and that's what we did. Baruch Hashem, me and my wife typed up a nice email, and we sent it out. Day one, the first 24 hours, we had over 100 inquiries. Within a few weeks, we had 250 inquiries for people that don't have where to send their daughters. And it was very clear what the school is about, this high school. Baruch Hashem, since then we have 20 girls now. Some are recycling, some are going, some are coming. And I schmooze with the girls. I go there once a day. One of the things that I'm doing, these are girls that are not learning much, you can imagine. So I decided we're very few takunas in this school, mamash minimum. And mamash minimum, tznius is not part of it. And one of the things that we need all the girls to join is called the thinking class. It's a shkufa class, but we reframed it. The thinking class, 1 hour a day, the girls come. They usually sit around the couches, they're not going to sit by tables. Or it's me or someone else, we give them a thinking class. We talk about tashkufa and different stuff in life, whatever they want. They ask me questions. Sometimes it gets very heated. They bring up what kicked them out of school. One girl was kicked out of school, embarrassed in front of the whole school because she had like a star on her sneakers that wasn't according to the halacha from the school. And the principal screamed and she said she never went to school ever since. And I'm listening to all this pain, and the kids were doing a little bit like therapy, and everybody's sharing their stuff. One day, I was about to give I talk about relationships, I talk about trust, I talk about different concepts. But I always start, I say, girls, whoever has a question could raise a question if it's something that I feel everybody's going to gain. So one girl asked a question, and she said, I have a question. Why does Hashem care if I have a tissue in my pocket on Shabbos without an Erev? Do you really think Hashem cares about things like that? He created the sun, the stars, the moon. Does he really care about that tissue in my pocket? Does he really care about that? Is Hashem so nitty-gritty? That's what he's into? I said, that's so awesome of a question. I asked around the girls, what is your question? Your question, different thing. It went into Shabbos. I shared with them that just a few weeks before, my wife, we have, in our neighborhood, there's a nice park. And there's hikes. You're able to go on hikes over there. And there's a huge sign at the entrance of the park. And as I'm reading that sign, and I said, and I made I do my 30 seconds. I made a video out of it. It says, the rules of the park: no smoking, no dogs, no alcohol, no trash, no, I don't know, like 30 no's. And I was sharing with the girls, I said, can you imagine? We came to the park to enjoy, and there's so many restrictions. And they said, yeah. So I said, you girls want to read the restrictions? I showed them a picture. They're reading the restrictions of this park. And they said, what do you mean? These are all the things that if they would allow it, nobody would be able to enjoy to be meniche in the park. I said, that's what the rules of Shabbos are all about. Shabbos is not about what you're not allowed to do. All the things that we're not allowed to do, Shabbos is going to take away from what Shabbos is made for. Because Hashem wants us to rest. He wants us to enjoy, to have meniche. Everything that we should not do Shabbos is to take us away from that. So you could get into a moment and say, okay, but this tissue? So I said, what should be in Chinuch? A heavy thing, a lighter thing, so driving. We went through the whole, I'm not going to get to the Shabbos thing. But I guarantee you the girls after that schmooze was unbelievable. I got some texts from parents. I don't know what you said, I don't know what you did, but the girls are starting to look at Shabbos a little different. Questions. The same thing we do with tznius. What do we do? So people ask me, I'm going to send my daughter to a place, and then, you don't have any rules. We have minimum. I don't want to point it out, the details. So we just had a girl that left our school 2 weeks ago. She sent me and my wife, you okay, I'm reading it? She sent me and my wife a text message, and I want to read it to you. You should understand the mahalach, and like this you understand the mahalach of unconditional parenting. Hi, Rabbi and Mrs. Ehrlich. I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me in your school. I really gained and was able to grow so much from being in an open and loving environment. It wasn't like I was told to stop doing things. I was loved for who I was. And that really gave me the strength and push to grow to where I am now. And the change came from within me, not from external pressure, which makes it real and lasting. Some examples of things I gained in my time here is definitely real, lasting relationships. Learning how to live alongside others and so much more. So really thank you for putting so much into this school. Even though sometimes it's hard, thank you. And I, Baruch Hashem, feel like I'm now ready to move on for even more growth. So Yetz Hashem. I'm going to be going to Israel, and I'm so happy to have been able to have BNY, which is the name of my school, and part of my journey, and I will forever be thankful to both of Rabbi and Mrs. Ehrlich. Thank you so much. This is a girl that came in. She had massive struggles with tznius. This was like the peak. We never, ever mentioned it. She went to school now to Eretz Yisrael. It was out of the window. Tznius was not an issue anymore. By the way, I want to share with you a moedige Zach. I wanted to share before with Rav Tager. I'm going to say it in public. One day, I get a phone call from a mother in Lakewood, and she says her daughter asked her, she wants to buy longer, I don't know names, but there's different lengths. It's not till the knee totally, but ich weiß nicht, different. She wants to improve her tznius, okay? So she bought it, so the mother texted, she asked why? No, stop, nothing, macho, nothing. So she sent me a text, she said, what did you do in the school this week? I said, really, it worked? What did I do? I came in one day to the thinking class, and I said, girls, today we're going to talk about personal space. Personal space. I said, when you talk to someone, and their face is in your face, what do? You back off, right? You talk to someone. This is about, on average, if you learn about social, most of us learn it on our own, and some of us need to be trained. From my nose to someone else's, there's about 17 inches on average when you talk to them. There's a study. It's 17 and 20 inches be'erich. But when someone comes closer, there's space, physical space. Then there's such a thing, it's called shared space. So we're talking about shared space. I said, the kitchen over here is shared space. So if you leave your dirty plate, you're invading someone else's space. It's your space or someone else's space. We're talking about space. Shared space, how it works, amazing. Then we talked about space for the eye. Imagine in America, there's a law. You can't walk naked in the streets. That's a zach. Well, I want to do what I want. No, you can't. You're hurting someone else's eye. You can't turn on music too loud when someone is sleeping. You take away someone wants to sleep, and you put on music, which happens by us a lot, because it's very labedic. Teenagers have a lot of energy overnight. It's unbelievable. We know it. They sleep by day, up at night. Even the gitterbucheren, and so I was talking about space, and when it comes to all the five senses, space. So then I talked about, and this was going on back and forth, and they were sharing what's what's not. And then I said, does any girl want to add something? What other space can you think of? And one girl says, I get it. So when I come down to the Shabbos meal with a very mini skirt and without leggings, and my brother-in-law makes kiddush like this because he wants to be able to, I'm invading his spiritual space. I did not end that conversation. I wanted them to learn and to chap a whole different perspective of tznius. You're invading someone else's space. You can't just do what you want. But I got there in its place, and that's where it ended. Everything could be taught, and everything could be given over. It just has to be done in a way that they should be able to accept it. So the mission of unconditional parenting is to have our kids, we're talking generally, we need to remind the Olam again that everything that we spoke about throughout Shabbos, and Bechlal, the trainings from Kesher Nafshi, and from most of our conversations are when we talk about kids that are in the way we call it stage 4. Right? There are kids that are just starting to struggle. They're not there yet. It doesn't mean that advice that you got from someone that we're dealing with at stage 4, and then you come home, you try to practice it on a kid that's just starting. Not everybody is in a level of that they need to go through every single detail, but we trust that parents are smart enough and mature enough to understand. You hear, you listen to speeches, and then you see how you could apply it in your own family, for your own kids, and you have to see what makes sense. But one thing is for sure, chap the mahalach, understand it, and then you could be shoykal das on your own and to decide, can I apply this for this child or that child? Can I actually apply this? But chap the mahalach. So the mahalach goes like this. Once a kid was hurt, regardless how they were hurt, it was bullied or they molested, I'm sorry I said that word, or any other way that they felt they were traumatized by something or hurt, their innocence, everything changes. Things change. They don't have that chayshik for life as much as they had before they were hurt. Rarely, nowadays, their issue is Yiddishkeit. The problem is that we only see that they're hurting when we see their Yiddishkeit disintegrating, going less and less. That's when we realize that there's a problem over here, and we think that the Yiddishkeit is the issue. So all of us, we're all guilty of it when we started, before we knew about this mahalach, and understanding what happens to a child when they go through trauma or pain. We right away try to make rules, or we try to bribe them, put on tefillin, I'll give you $100. Or if you're not going to put on tefillin, you're not going to come to my... We all try the natural thing, the way we deal with healthy kids, with regular kids, because they were not hurt. But over here we learn that once someone was hurt, physically, emotionally, usually emotionally hurt, it's a different sprach, it's a different mahalach, it's a different method. It's not going to work. The conventional chinuch does not work. We go into crisis chinuch. And this is what we need to remember, that the idea of this place is that we're teaching how to do crisis chinuch. And crisis chinuch is heal first, and then they'll become functional. And functional means rochnis and gashmis. If you came for Shabbos, or you came to any Kesher Nafshi Shabbos, and you wanted to learn how you could bring back your child to Yiddishkeit, you made the biggest mistake, because we're not going to teach you that. Yiddishkeit is not the problem. It never was and never will be. Yiddishkeit is awesome. It's the geschmackste Leben of der Welt is to sein a Yid. If I would Chazashim give up Yiddishkeit, if Leonu would come and say, you don't need to... What would I change? Maybe I wouldn't wear the straw, a little heavy. But I think it's Yiddishkeit. It's my own thing. It's my culture. Heilige Zach. It reminds me there was a Baal Shem Tov one day, maybe. But what would I give up? Would I give up a Yiddish life, but Ishle Ishtoi? Never. A Yiddish life from family? A guy sits with their family, Thanksgiving? I don't know if there's Thanksgiving over here. What would I give up? The schönste Sache zu sein a Yid. And minne betuchen, this is Yiddish. Vergeet it, it's the most awesome thing. We don't need to sell Yiddishkeit. There's a salesman that's trying to sell a product. He goes to the store and he says, would you buy this? Would you buy this product? And he says, what is it? So if it's a very good item, it's a good product, he doesn't need to sell him and tell him why it's good for him. He just has to tell him what the product is, and that person will know that it's good. We don't need to sell Yiddishkeit. Maybe we need to tell our kids, our regular kids at home, a little bit more what really Shabbos is and Yom Tov and Yiddishkeit and Yiddish Leben, the Simchas Achaim, Olam Haza and Olam Haba. Of course, we need to tell them. If not, they don't know. But you don't need to sell it. So if someone dropped Yiddishkeit, it's not they dropped Yiddishkeit, they dropped being functional in most parts of their life. Most of our kids, not all, most of our kids that go through their struggle with Yiddishkeit, they're not functioning, they get in trouble with the law. The boys with speeding the cars. And they do other risky behavior. So obviously not Yiddishkeit. Why do we get stuck on Yiddishkeit? And this is giving the wrong message for our kids, that we only care about their Yiddishkeit. What they're really telling us, I am in pain. I am hurting. I can't tell you, but I'm hurting. That's all they want us to do. So what do we do? What do we preach over here? What are we saying you should do? We don't have to sell it. We're just telling you what it is. It's the first heal. Everything else is to follow. I got a phone call, a WhatsApp voice note from a young man a few weeks ago. And he tells me, he's a regular kid at home, a 12-year-old kid. My son came home because he was angry, slamming doors. And I went over to him and asked him why he's slamming doors, what's happening? And he spit me in the face. The boy spit his father in the face. He tells me a text, what do I do? Do I punish him? Do I scream at him? Do I lock him in his room? Should I ignore it? What am I doing? I leave him back a voice note. I said, I'll tell you what to do. Take your son, don't say a word, and an hour from now, take him in your car, take him for a drive. Conversation in the car is sometimes a very good thing. You're both looking that way, right? Even with the wife. Sometimes we drive. So get the conversations. The scenery is moving. You don't have to look at that. You can have certain conversations happen in the car. So I told him, take your son on a drive and tell him, Man Tayr is Isa Tzaddik. It's a regular kid, not a kip. If you spit me in the face, it must be that you are hurting very, very much, and I don't know about it. Please tell me what it is. I want to help you. It can't be that you spit me in the face because you don't like me. He tells me, I'm not doing this. I said, you called me. This is my mahalach. You can do whatever you want. Call someone else. A few hours later, the senior man called me on the phone. He was crying. He said, Shloime, you wouldn't believe what just happened. I took my son in the car. We're driving. It took me a few minutes. We need to talk about this and that. And I said, Tzaddik, if you spit me in the face, it must be something is very, very hurting you. He said, Tati, thank you so much for telling me. You know that my Rabbi is not feeling so well. We have a substitute in Chayda for a few weeks, and the substitute is embarrassing me and belittling me in front of the class every single day. He called him names. So his father felt so guilty. I was about to punish my kid. And so he asked me, what do I do now? I said, tomorrow morning you're going with your son to Chayder. You're going into the manal's office and you say, I am not walking out of this room until this substitute is out of the building and never walks in here again. And this young man did it. And the manal apologized. He said, I had no clue. He looked at me like I had no clue what's happening in the class. And he thanked him. And Baruch Hashem, this boy is shining away. He got even closer to the sun ever before. Kolchkin, even more so, when we're dealing with kids that are being hurt, that they're hurting inside. We don't know what it is. Some of us trying to figure out. So when was it? Oh, it was 2 years ago. It was this, it was that. If you know what it is and you can still help it, you can still try to get them to therapy, fine. Not all the time are we going to get to the bottom of what is really hurting them and why they're... But the fact, the Metzias is, if someone is not behaving, is not functioning in Rochnias and in Gashmis the way they should in that age, is behechrach, must be that they're in pain. Prove me otherwise. Maybe in the times of enlightenment, Haskula, andere Welt. It's probably also hurting, but they were reading books, Apokryphos and Latzunas of Yiddishkeit. It was a total... This is not the case today. I've seen hundreds of Bucherim and girls throughout these years. I've never found a real Apokryphos. I didn't find anybody that's functioning in everything in their life besides Yiddishkeit because evolution is real. I haven't found that person. So, ein Udam choite elu im kein nechtes boiriach shtis. Should I say it in English? Ein Adam choite elu... No, okay. A person does not do an Aveira Only if it went into them how to say riach is? Foolishness. So if someone is not functioning, means that they're in pain. So what do? We treat the pain. That's it. You can go home. We're done. This is the whole idea of unconditional parenting. Unconditional parenting means there's no terms and conditions. You don't make with them. First, heal them. The couple is a rugefallen fellow of the last thing. It's going to be the last thing that's going to come back on. And it happens. It happens. Some of us need to go through this journey a month, a year, 10 years. I don't care, as long as it takes. Until they are going to be healed, and suddenly they're going to become functioning beings and going to be successful, and Rachlis is only going to be stronger and better than ever. Last week, Shabbos, I was in Bar Park by Simcha. I met a very, very chushev Yid, an elder Yid, a Baba chushev Yid. He told me that he had a son. He knows what I'm involved in. And he told me you should know that many, many, many years ago, he had a child, a bucher that was mamish, it was called the Beach Bums. There was a group of these guys many, many years ago. His son was mamish, went through, he said, I don't know what you guys are doing, but this is what I did. I never threw him out of my house. My neighbors were complaining. He brought him he came over with a dog sometimes, and he came over with a girlfriend, and he came over, they got sick. It's my son, my house, my Nisayon. A neighbor, it's your Nisayon, how you should do when your neighbor is. Every Nisayon comes along with other people around it that they need to know how they should deal with their Nisayon. It's not your Nisayon. If my in-laws don't know how to deal with, or my parents or whoever it is don't know how to deal with it's their Nisayon, how they should deal with the Einikol, with the grandchild. It's not, I don't have to carry them as well. I need to do what I think is right. And that's what he did. He said he said his son lives in Yerushalayim today, got married. He's Mekarev, alle Neshumalach, in the Neshumalach in Yerushalayim. Every Shabbos he invites Bucherim. And he was there, been there, done that. He gives them all the love in the world and acceptance. And they, Baruch Hashem, is unbelievable Matzliach. Wanted to tell me that he never believed. It took him so many years. There is no shortcut. There is no shortcut. 2 weeks ago, before we went to Shabbos to Keshanafshi, it was Yiddish Geret. Keshanafshi made one Shabbos 2 weeks ago for the Yiddish Geret, for the people that don't understand English. So we gemacht, and you can imagine, so the ultra Hasidische Yidden came for that Shabbos, and it was a very nice episode. It was a very intimate, beautiful Shabbos. Such a nice oilam. It was like very, very nice, 350 couples. And right before I left, I had a few minutes, and I went to my Svarim room, and I grabbed the cipher that I just picked up from the Svarim store a few weeks before, Toiras Hamagid Mizlotchev. Someone made a collection. There's different places, different places. Someone made a collection, a very nice. There's a lot of Magid is a town of the Baal Shem Tov. We're talking about Kodesh Kudishim. So I opened up randomly. My wife was waiting, she was running, we were packing the car. In a minute, let me give my kicker on. Maybe Hashem will give me a gift. And he gave me such a matana, and I want to share it with you. He says that someone asked this Latsha Magid, you're so makvid on every dibber, you never say a word extra. Tzaddikim are very makvid on your dibber. You call everybody tzaddik. People think it's a new thing now, you call tzaddik. It was like that in the olden days. Talmid of Hashem for sure. So he said, this person is a Rasha. And you call him tzaddik. He's a Moser and a Chvaiser. You call him tzaddik? Rebbe, you're lying. You're not. Mechz Latsha so brilliantly answers him. He says, if you learn a Rasha and you don't understand the Rasha, would you say Rasha doesn't know what he's doing? What is that? You say, I need to understand. What did Rasha mean to say over here? You learn another hour, you understand the Rasha. If you learn a Gemara and you have a question, what did the Gemara mean to say? You don't get it. You're going to say the Gemara doesn't know what it's saying. You're going to say, I don't. And a Pusik Chimish. In the Torah Kedosh says the pasuk, you don't understand it doesn't mean that the Torah Chazal. It means that you don't know how to learn this pasuk. It's the steitig in the Heilige Torah. Ve'ameich kilam tzadikim. The Torah says that this person is a tzaddik. I don't know how. I cannot say the Torah doesn't know what it's doing. So this is a tzaddik. I was always wondering, when I was a little kid, we used to read the books, Shine Bichlich, it's Vir Tzadikim, and we learned so much about the Heilige Badit Shuruv, all Talmid of Hashem were like that, but Badit Shuruv extra. Very Ich weiß, the seed was smearing the wheels with oil from his horse and buggy, for his buggy. And the guy was putting on film while he was, and the Vidit Shurov comes out to the body, look how beautiful Klal Yisrael is. This person, while he's taking care of his horse and buggy, he's still davening. What would other people say when they saw that? The other way around. And I used to think that the Vidit Shurov was foolish. Like, he really, or he's fooling Hashem doesn't really know. How does it work, being Dalekav schist someone in a matzav like that? But then, 17, 18 years ago, when I went to study a little bit psychology, and I was learning and understanding the Chinuch HaNefesh in a mensch, I started to realize that I do not have the ability to see and know where someone else's bechira is. Every person has bechira in a different place. We all have kids, right? As I always say, I have the Shivas Aminim. Every child is different. So they're all born, they're beautiful, they're cute, we kiss them, we love them, but they're like a gift wrap. They're full of wraps. We don't know yet what their nature is. We don't know if they're a kassen. We don't know if the kass is level 80 and their jealousy is level 20. And we don't know anything. But as they grow older, we get to see this kid suffer. Oh, he's an anger issue, and this kid has a that issue. This is their avodah, wherever they need to work on. We don't really know the struggles of another person. So if I don't know about the struggle of another person, how could I judge? How could I know what this person could be a tzaddik? The Gemara says in the movie, Psuchim, Ich werde zu Shemayim, so Alyonim lematu, v'tachtonim lemalu. The Rayat said it's a Lubavitcher girl from pre-war. She came to America before the war, and she was fighting to keep Shabbos for many, many weeks. She lost her job, and she worked, and she was here alone. The whole family never was killed, and stayed in Europe. And she caved in slowly but surely. She went over the derech according to our eyes, and she became very, very rich. And she lived in Boston. And Chabad over there was building a moised, and they knew that this woman, this alta lady over here, this very rich lady, she's a Chabadska from Nashville, so she gave Taka a very big nesina, a few $1 million to the Moised. A few months later, she was in Brooklyn, and they wanted to bring her into the Rayatz, the Friedrich Lubavitcher Rebbe. She said, I have no shaykhs. Come into the Rebbe. You gave money for his Moised. She came in, and the Rebbe started saying, I heard that you gave money for Torah, and it's such a schos, and this and that. She said, the Rebbe, he called her by her name. He called her by her name. He remembered her from the Heim. Rochela, Rivkela, whatever her name was. And he said, so she tells him, Rebbe, ich bin nicht fromm. The Rayatz looks at her and says, mir weissen nicht, wer ist fromm. We don't know who is fromm. We don't know. We have no idea. Some people have different missions. Some people were Tanoika Shenishbu, and all they needed to do is that one little thing, and other people are Maratzim, and other people are pain, and other people are... We don't know where someone else's Bechira is. So to me, I think that could help us tap into the real us, which loves our kids endlessly, and tell ourselves, my child is the greatest tzaddik in the world. I don't know how. Who says one person learns 15 minutes a day, and another person can learn 10 hours a day? The person that lived 15 minutes a day could be more chashuv to Hashem than the person that lived 10 hours. Do we know? This person struggles for him to concentrate 15 minutes on Torah. It's something that it just doesn't work for him. Kefim tzara agri. There's something that we don't know. So Gvein Ayid that came to Reb Heschel Spinker, and he said, Rebbe, my son, Reb Heschel Spinker, and Aziz Chassidish Rebbe. I remember when I was a little kid, my grandfather took me to him twice. So the seed comes to Rebbe, my son dropped Yiddishkeit and he's crying, what should I do? She said, call him to me. He comes home, he said, tells his son over there, the Rebbe rief dich, the Rebbe rent mit dich. And he said, I'm going to go to the Rebbe. The Rebbe is calling you. You're not gonna... So he had respect. He comes to the Rebbe's room and he says, Rebbe, before he started to talk, I just want to tell you, I'm a Mechal Shabbos. Just you know, disclaimer. Ich bin Mechal Shabbos. Like, do you still want to talk to me? The Rebbe says, wow, you're Mechal Shabbos. What do you do for Chil Shabbos? I smoke. He says, really? You smoke Shabbos? Wow. How many cigarettes do you smoke in every 24 hours? Much less. He says, ich weiß, 10 cigarettes. how long does it take you one cigarette to smoke? He said about 3 minutes. So he said, 24 and a half hours you keep Shabbos. Only a half an hour every Shabbos, you don't keep Shabbos. It's amazing. 24 hours you keep Shabbos. The last half an hour is the cigarettes that you smoke. This boy went home. Next Shabbos, he smoked 1 cigarette less. And I continued. He's now a Chassidische frimmige man, and he tells the story. He said, Rebbe, I told myself already that I'm gone, ich bin geendigt, and it's all or nothing, and it's a moedige Chachme, wie er Tzadik hat umgekickt. Reb Shloime Babbe, es ist gemacht zu Shabbos, müsste es sein, Chassidische Masos Tzadikim. Reb Shloime Babbe, which was so connected, my wife's family, very connected to Reb Shloime. Reb Shloime Babbe came to America after the war, and he had a shul in Manhattan. And he was looking for minyan, literally looking for minions. He's trying to, and there was like 7, 8 men, 9 people finally. And he sent out his Gabbe, or his son, Reb Naftulche, to go schleppen, and there's, B'stayid, every goy that passed by. And one guy passed by, and he looked like a goy, and he said, are you a Yid? Can be mashal minyan? He started talking Yiddish. I was like, ich bin a Yid. So he says, come in, we need a tzeinta to minyan. He comes in, Reb Shloime Babbe goes, Shalom Aleichem, where are you? From welche Stut? From where do you come? Next week, Shabbos, again, we're looking for minyan, and they go outside, they lead to the tent. He finds the seed again, and bring him in. A few weeks. Reb Shloime Babbe had minyan already, but then more Yiddilich started coming to America, and the Polish Yidden in Manhattan, and Reb Shloime said, I'm not starting to daven until the Yid is coming in. I wanted to come again. So it's because we don't need minyan. We started up with someone, he was here. So they said, Rebbe, why do you need it? We have minutes. You bring the shaygets, the goy, you know. I'm not starting to daven until we find them. They walk down to the corner, there's a park, and they see this Yid over there smoking on Shabbos. They came running back to the Rebbe, he's smoking on Shabbos, B'chal Shabbos, with Farhesia. We're done. They knew that every week they're going to have to go look for this guy. They said, Rebbe, he's a B'chal Shabbos. He's not, we don't need him. Reb Shloime sagt, reichet Shabbos, Hitler reichet. He smokes Shabbos, Hitler is smoking. It's not him, it's his pain. Go bring him, I want to have him for Shabbos. They brought him, they went, the Rebbe needs you. He came. A few weeks later, the Bava Rebbe moved back to Borough Park. He moved to Borough Park, he created this whole dynasty, this whole Hasidus. We know how now it's one of the biggest Hasidus. A few years later, many years later, middle of a tish, the Reb Shloime Babbe sees a Yid with a stramel, with Bucherem, came in and he tells his son, the Reb Naftula, and the Gabbe in the back, do you remember the Yid that I told you, as he reichet this Shabbos, Hitler reichet? I see him, I spot him over there, tell him to come over to me. He schlepped him over, Reb Shloime hugged him, to get kiss, geschret with him. After that, this young man gapped that I'm not smoking, Hitler is smoking. I'm pained. It's only pain. Who wants to be Mechal Shabbos? Who does not want to keep Shabbos? Does it make sense not to keep Shabbos? If someone ever did it in their life, ich verstehe, they never experienced a lavish dinner. They don't crave a lavish dinner. Or a fancy house, or whatever they have. We were born into this. If someone gave it away, that means that they are in pain. Hitler reichet. This is the message, and this is the idea that would constantly, and we all need reminders, and we need chizik again and again, and we have specific questions in different cases. Obviously, that's what all the training is all about, and to understand the details. But the subtotal, the idea and understanding is that there is no Mechalel Shabbos. Nobody dropped Yiddishkeit. They're in pain. There's no other Sache for them. I'm going to conclude. After being this the sign for a very long time, we become filtered, ausgearbeitete Menschen. We go up on a higher level of giving up our ego and all the other things that we spoke about Shabbos. With midos, we learn how to love even if they hurt you. We learn to see the love that we love them even if they hurt us. We learn different things. But what happens is, people around us that don't have this particular Nisayan are not in the level that you're at, and they throw you a question, and they throw you a doubt of what you're doing, if it's right or wrong, and that's when you could fall back. So be aware of it. If someone throws you, yeah, you're going to keep it, you know what you're doing for your other kids, or you know, all this kind of, it's just, for us it's amulak, not that they're amulak, chaz v'shulam. Amulak is sufik. It puts in doubt into us. Not chaz v'shulam, these people mean good, the tzaddikim. They just don't get this nisayon, they don't get it, they can't, it doesn't work. So remember that they're not in that level. It's okay. Say, Baruch Hashem, verstehst nicht. And I want to say one more thing. Only ask advice for someone that knows this nisayon inside out. Someone that, a Baal nisayon in this, or at least someone that was trained, someone that was in this mahalach. Because if not, you're going to get so confused. You're going to go to ask a local Ruh for this one and that one. The old tzaddikim, they're amazing. I just called the Rav not long ago to ask him a shal on a shidduch. Someone asked me information on a family that I know, and there's something that family that I was in my, I didn't know what to do. On one hand, if I don't say, I could be oiver, then I'm not saying this family might be. On the other hand, if I am going to say, I might be oiver and lashon hara, the chilas. It was a big shala. I called up a roof, udam chushev ma'oid, and I asked him, was dir? He said, he said, I am not ausgekocht in the sugya of Hilchas Lashon Hara Lagabe Shadichim. Call this and this Rav, he's in this sugya. It was so amazing how you could be a big Rav from Tzadikim Gemirim, but if they're not in this sugya, they don't get it, or because they don't have this design themselves, or they're not arangekocht in the sugya, do not ask them this question. You go there for bracha, alles I get a das Torah for this mahalach has to, my das Balabaya says that the das Torah, maybe we'll have das Torah be masculine with me. My das Balabaya says that a das Torah has to be only a das Torah that knows the sugya, or this parsha, the way you want to call it. I have to help him. We should have all the shefa, all the bruchas that we are bringing down, everything that we're doing in this world. 2 weeks ago, there was the Vakesh Nafshi, the great Rebbe Sonny Akiv also spoke. And he himself has this challenge. And he came and he spoke to the parents. It was amazing, the Rosh that he gave. And he said the story of the Heilige Baimayim Chaim, with one of the luminary Hasidic Rebbes. He wrote many different Sfurim. So Heilige Baimayim Chaim had a son that was a kip. He had him by his Shabbos table, by the Tish. He was a Rebbe of Hasidim. And he was a mamish in ganzen of the derech, that son, and he had him sit right near him, even on every single Shabbos, year in, year out. People used to come to him, Rebbe, if he comes, I'm not coming. He said, you can do whatever you want, it's my child. And we know at the end, this boy, at the end of his life, he did tshuva, and whatever he did tshuva, he became healthy, so he was able to be Ehrlich again. That's what tshuva means, in that way. This is something that we are doing, and this is something that tzaddikim did. And this is something, so you know that you're doing what's right. Ask the people that know this mahalach, and the Avshad Silva should be clear. And the Rabbi Shloi, I forgot. The main point was that, the main point was that the Rabbi also shared is that Ramosha Gaba and Skrid, again, Agrosi Yida Chusha Vida Tzadik, is Ramosha Batlan, Ramosha Gaba. He said the story, and he said that there was another tzaddik that came once to the Baimayim Chaim, and he was wondering what the Rebbe was doing at home Friday night after when his son came home with this son. What is the Rebbe doing? And he sneaked in like a chus, a chassidische genaive. He was hiding behind the door. He wanted to hear how the Rebbe talks to this son. So he put him to sleep and he's talking to him, tzadikul, chod chlieb, and Hashem had to essen mit trinken. And then when the son went to sleep, the Rebbe said, Rabbeinu Shalom. Dane kinderlich zijn al zo verwijt, we're such pain. And we're misbehaving. And look over them, we're not being eaten the way it's supposed to be. Look what I'm doing for my son. Isn't it about time you should do it with us? This is the main point that he shared. It's a moedige Zach. So this is a moedige Shemaim, there's a moedige Rash from all of us, and we are all going to be marching towards Mashiach mit Hashem, Bekud of Mamish, and we can zogen, V'haishiv, Leiv Uva, Salbuna, V'leiv Buna, Malavoisa.